morning, good evening, everyone. This is Luda Kopkina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News, where we rate articles essential, important, or optional. If you would like to follow along, the articles are at gaiinsights.com/articles. Please let us know what you think about the topic, about our ratings, about what we're saying. In the comments. We love the interactive nature of this show. We have a regular, wonderful crew today: John, Ankash, Tim, and Paul. And we're going to review 6 articles that have some really hitting new insights in them. Okay, Ankash, let's start with the first one, please.
Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from Poetic, and it is titled Traversing the Frontier of Superintelligence.
Yeah, the company Poetic is a small company, 6 to 10 people reportedly. From leadership is from DeepMind, and what they have been doing is essentially a meta-level intelligence on top of the advanced models. Tim, what did you think about this particular announcement?
I think it's really interesting, but optional for the AI leader for the moment. It's a product announcement. It's a really interesting product announcement, and potentially could be great. It's an open source, well, at least open weights model. And as you said, what they've done is use some techniques which aren't disclosed here to create a meta capability. So rather than use the models directly, they give the model some special sauce direction. And in particular, they talk about how they use prompts differently than normally used on these tests. So the results on the tests are fabulous. They're both cheaper and better, even on existing models. So even just using Gemini 3.0 against the way Google uses Gemini 3.0 in their benchmarks, they do better and cheaper. And then they can use a mix of models and do even better yet. So sure, this makes a lot of sense. And I'm surprised somebody hasn't already done it, to tell you the truth, because this kind of thing is done all the time with statistical models. We do it in life sciences all the time, where they do meta-analyses of results. And you can think if you remember 538 and Nate Silver back in the day on elections, he would just take all the polls and aggregate all the polls and do a little bit of special sauce and come up with typically better polling. But the key word is typical, and the key issue here is we don't know how it's going to actually work from theory to practice. So the theory, that is the benchmarking, looks fabulous. The idea sounds great. The practice, we don't know. It's an open source. There's no customers. So I say optional for the moment. Maybe something to keep an eye on.
Okay, optional from Tim. They are open sourcing 2 specific configurations for the prompting and for self-auditing. Not the whole thing, but with specific angles. This might be very helpful for people who are working with models for specific industries. What did you think, Ankash?
So Luda, I was between important and essential for this one. So I was essential because this meta system from Poetic, this shows that agentic orchestration can boost reasoning performance and cost efficiency. And they have shown it that it doesn't only work for open source models. You can put any model under the hood and it works for those set of models. So it basically highlights the idea that we have been discussing, I think, which is that we can build intelligence on top of any model or a combination of models through this meta agentic orchestration, and do not have to rely on a single frontier model. Uh, I was not essential because it's research right now. They have shown the numbers, they have shown the benchmarks, but it's not a scaled enterprise deployment as such, or a practical example. So for that reason, I settled on important.
Okay. Thank you, Ankash. John, where were you on this one?
Yeah, for all the reasons, exactly where Ankash is, for all the reasons he said. One thing I will add in terms of when I hear the chorus of what will the AI leader do with this today? The answer is the AI leader needs to have a view as to architecturally where things are going. This notion of a meta layer sitting atop these different models and creating more performance and liquidity and flexibility, I think is incredibly important. So,
yeah. So you were important on this one. John or Paul, what did you think? Last word.
Yeah, incredibly interesting in the R&D lab. It sounds like it's going to be really easy for them to get a case study. So let's get a case study and share that, because AI leaders need case studies. So I was optional.
Okay. Let's mark it as important, power of the chalk, because it's really a very exciting development, actually, because people can pick it off the shelf and use it and get the cost down, accuracy up. So this is technique that is open and they can use it. So important.
Well, so they say. Let's remember. So they say. Based on benchmarks.
So they say.
I'm with you, Tim. I'm with you, Tim.
Luda, you had the votes. You don't need to use the power of the chalk.
Okay, so we got 3-2. Democracy wins, and the chalk says important. Let's proceed to the next one.
Wait, Tim, see how far that compliment goes to John before pre-show.
Yeah.
That's cool, right? Okay, so let's do the next one. Ankash, please.
Right, Luda. So the next one comes from OpenAI, and they have launched a new State of Enterprise AI report.
Yes, John, this is massive, and this is only enterprises and lots of interesting data on adoption, performance, what people see and what enterprises see in terms of the adoption numbers and impact on their either individual or enterprise AI efforts. John, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I think this is essential. It's fantastic. You know, like Anthropic and some others, you know, they put out a lot of data here. And if you look at, Ankash, if you go down to the paper itself underneath, there's some interesting graphics in it. But you know, the main story of increased adoption and use. That's how many hours saved per week. 10 hours, I think, is the top one. And we're seeing a phenomenon which we have reported on as well, which is a bifurcation. This is, you know, it's a bimodal market. There's leaders and there's everybody else. And those leaders in this are using, they're using the tool 6 times as much as the median. They're calling on data 16 times as much. Now, I understand frequency doesn't mean productivity, but the self-reports are significant, you know, 60, 70% of folks reporting, you know, increased productivity, you know, more and more spread throughout the organization. I think it's just essential reading in terms of what's actually going on in organizations that are adopting these new technologies. And obviously, you know, our friends at OpenAI have a tremendous interest in promoting this. So, you know, discount by whatever you think the appropriate inflation factor is because they're a supplier, but the data are pretty compelling and certainly worthwhile for an AI leader to understand.
Okay, essential from John. Paul, I know you already wrote about this. What did you think?
Yeah, definitely essential. And I think the biggest thing to me is that the usage continues to grow. So I know all this breathless talking about the AI bubble. That's a financial valuation. There is no bubble on adoption. The adoption is increasing significantly. We didn't see this in the dot-com era this quickly here. So this stuff is extremely real. And this is a fantastic data point for the naysayers who are saying this is just a bunch of people doing pilots and wasting coding time. So absolutely essential.
Interesting. Ashish was a little doubtful, saying stay in the news, if this is the article that he means. What did you think, Tim?
Yeah, I would give it an essential because they do have great data at OpenAI. They're still, if not the leader, you know, right up there 1-2 with Anthropic in the enterprise. So they got a lot of good data, and the data is good to see. What I'd love to see, so here's an exhortation to people who do this kind of research, is a comparison to things like adoption of the internet What would be really interesting is adoption of cryptocurrency and blockchain, which had at least as much hyperbole when it first came out. Didn't turn out to be such a big deal, at least not yet. Could, but not yet. And it's been 20 years almost. So these things do have interesting adoption cycles. As Paul noted, this is faster, but I think you could normalize adoption cycles and take a look. And so you have to get your arms around what you're measuring. So I still think it's essential. Information is good. I don't know if I believe, the distance between the leaders and the laggards will remain. I don't even know if they're measuring it right yet or not, because they're just measuring basically the number of messages, which is a first order proxy, maybe not so bad, but I don't know if that translates to value for the organization. It'll be a little while before we can figure that out, but still essential for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Tim, you can imagine a world where they're basically rewarding the incompetent, right? Because people are just using it a lot.
Or worse yet, the Cal Newport problem of you start sending a lot of messages because it looks great, or you're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic because you're optimizing bad patterns. There's a million different things that can go sideways that are hard to sort out until you get to outcomes, and it takes a while to get to outcomes. But I think we're seeing outcomes much faster with this technology, so it won't be as long a wait.
So what they're trying to say actually is that the impact and the depth of penetration across the enterprise, those are the two metrics that are correlated. They didn't do the correlation directly, but that's kind of what they are thinking that will be the
right. Right, because that's what, again, what's measured gets managed. I think Drucker said that decades ago. So it's easy to measure. It's easier to track how many messages are sent, how many tokens are consumed, that kind of stuff. So that's what they tend to use. Might be great, just hard to say this early.
Yeah, I mean, making the case for Ashish that, to stay in the news article, one could see this being justification for a funding round, right? Where they're doing projections on token consumption, putting revenue against that token consumption. They want to support that and just say, hey, look, it's early days. Just, you don't need a lot of imagination. If it's 16 times as much, we just have to convert. It's the old, if I could sell this thing in China and 1% of the Chinese buy it, right? 1% of people go to 16, 2% of people go to 16 times as much. Here's our revenue projection. Yeah, but even with all that cynicism, I think there's not cynicism, whatever, even with all that, counter argument or, possible argument, I still think it's essential.
Okay. We're going essential montage. Okay.
Quick things. I think we get the exact same discussion and argument on browser usage and email usage when they first start coming out here. So I think we're obviously early days. I think the other thing that's notable is every company we talk with, they're the secure employee chatbot. They're trying to decide or implementing either Copilot or ChatGPT. Here's a million companies using this. I'd like to see Microsoft, if in fact they actually have some stats that they're willing to share, come up with this, because by far we see everybody, the usage preferring ChatGPT over Microsoft Copilot. So I suspect Microsoft Copilot is half or maybe 2/3 the usage.
Yeah, possible. Okay, Ankash, we are going essential on this one. Are you okay with that?
Essential it is, Luda. I think we have read 2 other articles in the last 1 week only on this one. So yesterday we discussed the Anthropic adoption inside Anthropic only, right? And before that, there was that Open Router A16Z study. So a lot of these coming out, I think what they give is a quantitative baseline for leaders to highlight to their boards that, okay, this is the kind of adoption that we are seeing in the market. And this is now important for us to go ahead with this as well. So essential for that reason.
Yeah, and forwardability of this article is obviously high. Okay, essential it is. Let's proceed to the next one.
Okay, the next one comes from Mercor, and it is titled the AI Consumer Index.
Yes, Ankash, if you could summarize it for us, please.
Sure, Luda. So this one comes from Mercor. So they are a company who is doing these data annotation work for a lot of these model companies. So they were recruiting candidates earlier, but they shifted to doing this data annotation work. So this consumer index might be slightly biased from them, but what it really says is that this benchmark answers a simple question: can AI really help people in doing their everyday tasks, that is like shopping, cooking, gaming, and other tasks. And it is based on a 400 question hidden test set. And there are 80 public examples to measure this. What are the findings of this benchmark are? So all the top models, they scored less than or close to 50% on different parts of their benchmark. So it basically shows that there is a clear gap between current AI adoption and what consumers would expect from a smart assistant, which most of these model companies they claim to be. So I was important on this one, Luda.
Okay. Important from Ankash, a new index coming in here. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I was more on the optional side on this one. It is interesting. It's yet another benchmark YAB. We might have a new meme. As Ankash said, I think the big message here is none of these are very good at the end of the day. Lots of hallucination. They can't complete tasks. But it's difficult to say how useful this is going to be. I think the interesting thing, we were just talking about how fast adoption is going. When you have adoption going this quickly, and ChatGPT is one of the most used websites in the world, and everybody's using AI all the time. Economists call this a natural experiment. You just have a lot of actual field work, if you will, going on. And the real answer is going to be, how do people like it, and how do they use it, and how do they find it in practice? So this could kind of be a little bit interesting, but I think it's early, and I would give it a pass for right now, optional.
Okay. John, what did you think?
Yeah, I was on. It's interesting the sequence, because I was exactly on the fence between Kaj and Tim. And Tim, you've pushed me toward optional. Yeah, I think that nice idea. Early days. I'm not that convinced this is a great set of measures, and whatever.
Yeah, I was also optional because I think this will evolve and it's not the final. Paul, where were you?
Optional.
Optional it is. Let's proceed to the next one, Ankash.
Okay, the next one comes from Ethan Mollick and other set of researchers, and this is titled "Playing Pretend: Expert Personas Do Not Improve Factual Accuracy."
Yeah. You know how everybody says you start with a prompt and saying, you are that expert. And this article says, maybe not. What did you think about this, Tim?
I thought it was interesting. I was kind of between optional and important. It's a relatively easy read, and it makes an interesting point, but the impact is sort of marginal because it doesn't appear to hurt you if you put this thing in. And so, it just doesn't make any difference. So the question is, okay, if it doesn't make any difference, do I really care? You could save a little bit of time in not writing one more sentence or two more sentences into your prompt, I suppose. But it's a study. It's a little bit limited, but interesting. And I've heard this before. There has been some statements before that by other folks, and I think they even cite them here, that using a persona doesn't really improve the results, especially with the later models. So this is just a little bit more evidence in that arena, but it just doesn't make that much difference at the end of the day. So that's what's sort of leading me towards optional.
Yeah. What did you think, John? You unmute.
I had it as important. I think it settles an interesting claim, which is, and I've done it myself, you're a marketing expert, you're this expert, whatever. And the fact that it doesn't do anything to performance, I think, is an important finding, not essential, but useful and certainly applicable for instruction and policy.
Yeah, but what AI leader gonna? It's just for knowledge, right? Okay, Ankash, where were you?
I was optional on this one, Luda. Same thought as you. What would an AI leader do with this?
Yeah.
I think simple one-liner that, giving the persona to the prompt is not essential would be enough for the AI leader to know. They don't need to go into these set of details.
Yeah, the study is well done, and they prove it pretty unequivocally. So that's great. But I mean, that's good. That's all. Paul, we're going optional on this one.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think it's an important thing to watch. I mean, we've trained over 13,000 people with instructor-led training. We train RTO, role, task, output. I think you did mention it does help the output. And the thing that we continue to see in education is that people who are learners need a little bit of structure because they're intimidated by all this. And a real simple structure seems to help the learning, particularly when you help them understand what output do you want. Do you want a PowerPoint? Do you want a list or whatnot? Which
Yeah,
I think they also said it helps with the output.
Yeah, so it's now you can just remove that first, I am this, right? Because they pretty much proven that this doesn't help. So it's useless. Okay, so so Paul, Paul, you would argue for important as a finding.
I mean, it's it's critical for us internally. We're going to continue to watch this. We're going to continue to teach RTO in our training tomorrow or even later today. But I do think we do need to understand,
what has happened.
Okay. What happens is this is very cross models or not.
Yeah. Okay. Let's put it as important. Important it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one is a case study on how Airtable built a high-quality Q&A assistant called Omni.
John, what did you think about this case study?
Yeah, I think this it's kind of a short case study. Talks about how they were able to take very different data types and capabilities data types and records across Airtable, and to be able to ask more integrated questions like, is there anything behind, does this engineering group and task group, we look at the next couple of months, is there any urgent projects that are falling behind, for example. So the kind of questions you would ask as an executive or a manager. So I think that's kind of cool. The case study for me could have been a little bit more rich in terms of, how they manage it and how they, think about the access and who gets to ask these questions and, how do you think about organizing the data and so forth. So I gave it an important, because it's a lot of people are adopting Airtable. We use Airtable. To me, this sits in the really important category that we don't talk about enough, which is that AI is the new user interface. AI is the new UI. And, this notion of I've had and this goes in the categories of, wow, that you are a really dull guy. I've had a fascination with unstructured and semi-structured data for now going on 50 years, about how do you think about it and deal with it and so forth. And the beauty of AI, of these new models, it allows you to wade into that unstructured data, and wade into it in a way that you can find signal in the noise with all the caveats of hallucination and so forth. So I think this is yet another example of how I think a lot of integration that we used to think of as having to standardize things like data and processes at the center to get consistency is now been challenged by the LLMs, because you can basically process the mess and get a little bit more consistency. And I think that's the approximation to semantic value and signal value brought to us by the LLMs is profoundly important, and to me is complementary to our traditional kind of top-down bureaucratic, hey, let's get it right the first time and articulate it epistemologically at the beginning. So this is a good example of that. So I think it's a decent example and a very important trend under something which I think is going to continue to grow.
Thank you, John. So important from John. As I was reading it, I felt like they straitjacketed. So a lot of, you should think this way and that way. So I really didn't like this article and the impact they didn't share. But Ankash, what did you think?
I was with you, Luda, on this one. Option for me as well. Not enough details on how they did it. And as you mentioned, no quantitative impact as such shared. So for that reason, option.
Okay. Tim, where were you?
I was between optional and important. The interesting point here, to John's point, I created a NoSQL database 45 years ago, so I've been at this for a while. And the interesting thing here is that as compute and network has gotten super cheap, we've created these enormous databases with thousands of columns and really long unique IDs, so you can have petabytes of records and things without contradiction. And now LLMs are forcing us to squeeze that through, a kink in the hose because they can't handle the context. So these are early days. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think this is a powerful use. The reason I sort of went towards important, Airtable's important company. And this is a better example than I've seen from Salesforce or anybody else of, hey, we've got all this great data. How do you use it? And I just felt it was kind of ironic that with all the advancing compute power, we're now having to shrink these things down to fit them into the LLM.
Yeah, no, I was there, but and they did a lot of straitjacket and deterministic paths to say go this route. Okay, what did you think, Paul? Oh, Paul is gone. Okay, yeah. So let's put it as important. It's 2 by 2, but I think you have some points, so that's good. All right, let's put it as important. Next one, the last one, and we only have like a minute to go for it.
So the last one,
optional.
Quinn, and yeah, optional for me as well, Luda. So basically, they have launched a new Quinn TTA Splash model, and they have launched different set of timbers. 10 plus languages, 9 plus dialects. There's nothing new here, just a different sort of distribution mechanism from Quinn. They haven't shared open weights here. They want users to use their Quinn API to use this model. It's similar in performance to some of the other closed source model, 11 Labs, GPT-4 or Whisper and others, but still an optional read right now.
Yeah, it's just almost like a feature. Okay, so we're going optional. Tim, John, disagree?
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Just to point out one point of irony. The 11 Labs model is better in Chinese than the Quinn model, and the Quinn model is better than the 11 Labs model in English, which don't
figure. That's funny. Tim, you wanted to say something.
Today, next week, it'll be different.
True enough.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, optional it is. And as Ankash prepares the scorecard, John, any announcements, please?
Yes, we have 2 announcements. We had a fantastic learning lab last night with Jenny. She did the second half of the 201 training on creating your own ChatGPT. So it's really great and available now on our website, the video and the transcripts and so forth. And then today at noon, we're going to have noon Eastern time, US. We have training for Microsoft Copilot, which is open to everyone. So please come join that. It's all about enablement.
Wonderful.
Yep, Jenny's session was great. If you have a chance to watch it, you should, because even if you think you know ChatGPT, you'll learn some things.
Right, and you can create a lot of stuff with custom GPT, so it's a very useful knowledge, and there's lots of variations of how you can use different features. Okay, great. So we have today 1 essential, 3 importance, and 2 optionals. Thank you very much, Valda, Ashish, Lola, I think, for commenting and participating. Thank you, analysts, and we'll see you all tomorrow.